Getting the right strike on your short game shots is crucial to gaining control, lowering your scores. I'm going to show you how to do just that. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I want to give you some insights into short game work. I've got myself a 54-degree wedge. It's the loft of a golf club that so many will use around the greens. You'll also tap into the higher lofty clubs like a lob wedge, 58 degree, and also you'll be using your pitching wedge and your 9-irons. But whatever loft you're using, understanding what contact is going to do for you and how you go about getting that contact in certain situations. I want to just hit a few chip shots here, and I want you to take a note at a few data points that I've got up on the screen. I've got the attack angle on the far left-hand side, I've got the spin rate, got the launch angle, and the land angle. What are the relevance of those four boxes? Well, the attack angle is how much I'm hitting down on the golf ball. For those of you out there that fluff your chips, those attack angles invariably are too light. You're not hitting down enough. And for those of you that battle with getting any flight, but strike it well, those attack angles might be too steep. We're going to discuss how you're going to change that. The spin rate. The spin rate is going to be the ingredient that you feel is going to gain you most control. The bizarre thing is actually it's the land angle on short game shots that really gives you the control that you're looking for. From a short shot, a chip shot, to get that ball backing up and stopping really quickly, you're much better off improving your land angle, the angle that the ball descends to the ground at, rather than the zip and the spin you're trying to create. And so the launch angle and the land angle have very much a mirroring effect. If you get a good launch angle, you get a good land angle in most shots that you'll play, certainly short game shots. Let's hit a couple. I'm just going to hit, as I say, a couple of little chip shots from around the green, no more than sort of 20 or 30 yards. And just standard chip shots. I'm not doing anything exciting here. I've hit down at 3 degrees. I'm just going to hit a few of these. These are going around 20 or 30 yards. Again, 3.4 down. Hit another one. And this, you're starting to see some fairly consistent flights. Another one at 3 degrees down. All I'm doing here is I'm just making my usual pitching motion. Let me talk to you about the setup. The setup is something that often we get caught up in a way of locking in strike. And quite frankly, locking in strike is such a faulty way of thinking about setup. Setup is trying to give you as good a chance to deliver yourself back to where you are at address, at impact. Don't think that just because you set yourself up right that you're going to necessarily return back to that same point, even on a short game shot. My biggest piece of advice on short game shots is time. When you start to find yourself in trouble with short game, it's so easy for you to not use enough time in your chip shots. Remember, this golf club, for the first time, is traveling seriously slowly. The amount of time a golfer will have in a full swing, full 7-iron, is fundamentally the same amount of time for a backswing and a downswing as it is with a chip shot. But because it's so short and you're trying to make this golf club swing, you need more time to collect it in transition and move it back down. When I make a backswing and then I'm trying to transition, because it's moving so slowly, the influence that the handle has, the acceleration that the handle has in a chip shot will all of a sudden make the head, the handle, and you out of sequence. Nobody really talks about sequencing with their short game. Everybody seems to want to talk about the sequencing of their long game. And I think if you were to actually create better rhythm, tempo, timing, sequencing with your short game, I think before you even change anything, you would start to improve the strike and the flight. So if I start to excessively accelerate in my downswing, and I start to excessively accelerate with my handle, watch what happens to the attack angle. So I really accelerated the handle, and all of a sudden, the attack angle went to 5.6. I go a little bit more. Again, I've kept all things the same with my setup. I'll talk to you a little bit about setup in a moment, but I'm going to accelerate the handle even more. Invariably, when you start to see the handle accelerate even more, you start to see the golfer go towards the target. And all the time, the golfer is trying to accelerate at the golf ball, move towards the target. The ball's going more and more offline, and we're losing more and more flight. So the acceleration of the handle in a chip shot is something that can get you into real trouble, because all of a sudden you can feel the ball going out to the right. And I think it's this ingredient that causes the golfer to then have a bit of a yippy feel. The handle accelerates, the ball goes out to the right, the face angle opens up, and then before you know it, you get the acceleration and then the flick at the bottom to try to get the face back to strike. So now we have an accelerating head. And so in transition, now I accelerate the head, the club head overtakes me. Now the ball flight has gone crazy high and to the left. TrackMan didn't get the attack angle on that one. Let me have another go at that. So again, I'm going acceleration with the club head. Handle stalls out, club head accelerates, and you can now see my attack angles at 0.6 down. So the balancing act of the handle and the head is crucial. A great drill for this is to hold the club, the butt of the golf club, in your fingertips with both hands. And just stand over the golf ball and move the club to the left and then move it to the right and move it to the left. Come back to the start. So move the club and the handle to the right, to the left, to the right and back. So the lightest possible contact on the golf club with your fingertips. And just appreciate how the handle must start to respond to the club head, the weight of the club head. Because if you don't start to appreciate that the light end can move so aggressively, and when you're spending a lot of your time hitting drivers, hitting 5-irons, hitting 3-woods, hitting 8-irons, where we're so used to accelerating the handle so aggressively, you start to appreciate that that can't be in a short game shot. Because if the handle moves aggressively, the club head hasn't got the space between the golf ball and the top of your backswing to catch up and remedy, nor would you want it to. You want to feel that the handle and the head are going to be harmonious in their travel backwards and through, so that you start to feel that the weight of this head and the handle are going to help each other out. The minute you start to feel the synergy between the handle and the head in transition, you'll start to appreciate that actually all of these setups where golfers are being inspired to make the head and the handle line up dead straight and take the wrist hinge out of it is a superficial way of stopping you from feeling the energy between the handle and the head. It's terrible. I see more problems coming from golfers' short game when people are being instructed to line the head and the handle up, put the ball in the middle, take their wrist angles out, and just turn from the chest. It's appalling. It will make you much, much worse for it. So the synergy between the handle and the head, because there's such a huge weight differential, is where you want to really start to focus your attention. And that little drill, where you're gripping the golf club with the tips of your fingers, will really start to tap you into how transition from backswing to downswing is crucial. It allows you to gather it all up and start to make some really nice strikes and flights. And you can see, my attack angle will then be dictated on how much my handle keeps on accelerating or out-accelerating the head. Now, when we talk about setup, and I've come on to setup secondary, because for me, if you're setting the ball in different positions, if the ball goes further back and you keep the handle in the same spot, all of a sudden, you're going to start meeting the golf ball slightly more on the way down. There's enough golfers in the world that put the ball all the way back, the acceleration of the head is still there, but because the ball is back, it makes them think that they're starting to make a better movement with their handles and the head. And so ball position will either make the ball come out lower or make the ball come out higher, just depending on where you're going to meet it in the circle. So if you put the ball back in your stance and you apply the same feelings with the transition, without doing too much, that golf ball is going to start to have a slightly different flight. So I applied the same feels with the transition with that ball back, and now the attack angle's jumped up to 9 degrees. I put the ball further forwards, and by putting the ball further forwards, all of a sudden I have less shaft lean, and now the transition feels the same. Now the attack angle will start to reduce itself, and I'll start to get more ball flight. So it can't be one size fits all, but what can be one size fits all is the appreciation of the transition phase in a chip shot. And when you start to tap into this sensation with the fingertips, you'll really start to feel how subtle you, and it's almost like, good analogy would be, if you've got your kiddie and you're just learning to ride a bicycle, and you've got the stabilizers off and you're letting them ride out of your hand. What you wouldn't do is give them a push. That sensation of them riding out of your hand is the same softness and subtlety you're trying to encourage the golf club to change direction. And therefore, when you feel that subtlety in transition and the ball doesn't go far enough, then you can start to inspire a little bit more wrist set, a little bit longer backswing, and a gentle acceleration. But what you mustn't do is take all the wrist set out, put the ball in the center, and hope that that in itself is going to lock you in to make strike occur. The overwhelming impressiveness about the best golfers in the world is their nerve to make tempo and transition be so consistent under the most intense of pressures. But what you don't see on tour is a handle and a head perfectly lined up, because they would all say that they're going to feel like they're going to fat it. So please be careful out there when you're setting up with the handle and the head in line. Hopefully that's been useful and you've taken something away there with that super little drill with the fingertips. Do tap into that, because it will really give you a good sensation of how to harmonize the handle and the head in your short game shots. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Do like and share and subscribe while you're here. And I think you'll agree, that's good coaching.